Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Are You In? Apologies for not being able to put this out on Wednesday. I was a little bit busy, it's been a kind of a stressful week for me in general. I am back with another review of an album from 2017, one that was really, really high on my top 50 list, but one that I wanted to go a little bit more in depth on. And this one is the new Pornographers with their latest album entitled Whiteout Conditions. Now, the new Pornographers are an indie rock slash power pop band from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And apparently they're a supergroup. Now, I haven't heard of a lot of the bands that they are a part of, but I'll just list them as I go over the names. So you have Carl Newman on vocals and guitar. He's known as a solo artist as AC Newman, and he's also part of Superconductor and Zampano. Then you have Dan Bajer, I want to say that's how you say it. I have no idea. On vocals and guitars, also a part of Destroyer, Swan Lake, and Hello Blue Roses. Then you have Neko Case as on vocals. She's known as a solo artist, but also has been a part of Mao and the Corn Sisters and Cub. Then you have John Collins on bass. He's also part of the Evaporators and Destroyer. And Blaine Thurier on keyboards and synthesizer. Not a part of any other bands. He's just an independent filmmaker. Tom Fancy on lead guitar. He's also known as a solo artist under the stage name of Fancy, and as a part of Limb Lifter. Catherine Calder on vocals, keyboards, and guitar. She's known as a solo artist and also a part of Immaculate Machine. And Joe Selders on drums and vocals, and also a part of a band called Beat Club. Now, I haven't heard of any of these people or any of these bands, though the one I kind of know is Neko Case, only by name, and I think it's because she also has a record for one of the longest names for an album, and that one is called The Worse Things Get, the harder I fight, the more I love you. And I think it's was up there for record, though I know that Fiona Apple had something like that not too long ago either as well. So I think she doesn't have the record anymore. Anyways, I think that's the only reason why I know of Neko Case. So this band is completely new to me. I've heard of the name before through friends and through through other things, but never really listened to it until I looked at the top 50 of Rolling Stone's top 50 list for 2017, and found that they were on there. I believe they were like in the 40s, maybe late 30s. And I was like, okay, I have to listen to every album on this list, so let me take a look and see how it was, and what do I think of it. Well, I've already said that it is very high on my list, and there's a good reason for it. It's honestly the sound. The sound I really, really enjoy. It kind of like has this a little bit of an 80s flair with the synthesizers and a little bit of the electric drum kit that they use on certain songs, but they also are able to bridge that with some more modern sounding stuff. A perfect example of that is the last song on the album, which is Avalanche Alley, which is honestly my favorite song on the album, that has more of a, like, if you were to put the Strokes with something a little bit more 80s sound to it, that's what you would get for this particular song. It's a really cool, really fast-paced song, has some really good electric guitar, as well as some awesome drumming on it. And the chord progression isn't like hugely interesting. It's only E, C major 7, D, but it just works so well with this song, and there's some really cool harmony parts. For example, right before the second chorus, there are two voices, one going G sharp, then to F sharp, and then back to G sharp, and then the other one going E, D, E. So in the E chord, G sharp and E, not that interesting. It's just the root and the third. But for both the C chord and the D chord, you have a situation where you're singing the ninth and the sharp 11. So the D would be the ninth of C because that's the second note, just an octave above, and then the F sharp would be that sharp 11. It's usually an F, but in this case it's an F sharp. Same thing with D. You would have the E, which is the ninth because again that's the second of the D major scale, just an octave above, and then the sharp 11 being G sharp, which would be G in usual cases. So there's some really interesting harmonies in there, and I really just like it. I like the lyrical nature of it. It kind of feels like a post-apocalyptic let's try that again. A post-apocalyptic world, potentially maybe after Trump becomes president. And it's talking about sending blues from the lost world and news from the future. And I just really like the feel that they've created on this song. Then you also get something like Clockwise, which feels a little bit more open, a little bit more sparse in parts, though there is a lot of electric guitar in there as well. And what I really like about it is the way that the harmonies are produced on here. It feels very, very angelic, especially when you have that with the sparseness of some of these parts. So sometimes the music will just drop out and it's just the voices. The lyrics themselves are a little bit iffy. It feels like it's talking about a group of people who are going to fight until whatever they're trying to accomplish is done, and they'll just keep working at it like clockwork, like clockwise, like a motion of a clock. You know, as long as time keeps going on, we're going to keep fighting until we find what we need to. And so another one of these where it's a little bit different in sound, but still really cool feel. Like just all over this album, you find a lot of really, really good songs. Like I said, even just going to the last two songs on the album, after going through 9 previous ones, you still find some really, really deep songs on here, some deep cuts, some really nice gems on here. Another one of my favorites is Second Sleep. And personally, it's for the harmonies on there and the layering of the harmonies. Just the way that they build in the first part. And just also the sparseness of the words. It almost feels like some of these lyrics are thoughts that are happening while asleep. You know, these fleeting thoughts that happen while we sleep, and just appear and then leave us. And it's another one of these ones where there isn't much to it other than the drumming and a little bit of the background music. But the lyrics themselves and the harmonies themselves make up for it, especially during the lights on part. I really like the harmonies there. And again, one other really, really cool thing about this album is the lyrics are really good. It's been a while since I've been able to say like there's really good imagery and really good wit and on an album review. And I really like these lyrics. There's one particular one on in this particular song where he's talking about trying to fall back to sleep because this is a song about insomnia, and the lyric itself goes, "Been awake, thinking fast, cannot sleep. Second thoughts, second-rate Socrates." You're pondering the world. You're pondering about philosophy, just like Socrates. Of course, hopefully you all know that Socrates was an ancient philosopher, and he's saying that himself he is a second-rate Socrates. But it's just maybe 12 words there, like being able to bridge that entire idea in just those amount of words is really cool. And it just shows that there's a lot of really good imagery on this album. Going to another song where the words themselves are really interesting. Another one, which is "Play Money," the first song on the album. It is one that's dealing with talking about the like assassin-like nature of some artists. Looking for uh, looking for a buck in order to be able to make a living, and I'll fight whatever fight I need to as long as the money is right, kind of way. A mercenary idea, while also trying to be like fuck the system. So it's that contrast, but there's also some really really interesting witty lines about music and the music industry, and it's a great way of starting the album. Then you also get a song like High Ticket Attractions, which definitely references Trump and his election, and the hysteria afterwards. Which also, this song might be a foreshadowing of Avalanche Alley. So it's talking about all the hysteria that's going on, and be like, we have to pack a suitcase and leave here because it's time to go. And which is also very funny in a way, because if you remember during the elections, a lot of people were talking about, if Hillary gets elected or if Trump gets elected, I'm going to pack my suitcase and I'm going to leave to Canada, which they're from there, so it's funny that it's a little tongue in cheek in that sense. But there's also some really good imagery talking about like a post-apocalyptic worlds, where it's one particular lyric that goes, "The Magna Carta is underwater. We left it there for the sons and daughters." And the Magna Carta is a very old document, I believe, from maybe the 1500s. I want to say, it might be even earlier than that. But the Magna Carta is a document that helped establish certain political ideas in Europe, if I remember correctly. And it's kind of talking about like we're taking these ideas, these political ideas that have been established for hundreds of years, and we're throwing it away, and we're leaving it there for the sons and daughters to find and hopefully establish again, because that's what we're doing with this political system of ours. So there's some tongue-in-cheek stuff, even talking about the Mayans, and how they had this highly technological society, but then were stricken down, and kind of making comparisons in terms of the Mayan society and potentially what our society is going to turn into. So a lot of tongue-in-cheek and a lot of good imagery. And like those to me are most of the highlights on this album. The drumming is great on this album. There's some really interesting music, though not like in a theoretical sense. Just a lot of really warm and very energetic songs. Even when even when the lyrics themselves aren't necessarily fitting that mood. You have a song like Whiteout Conditions, which I think is the lead single on this album, where it's a song about Newman's sister, who was dying of cancer at the time that they wrote this album, and unfortunately did pass away. And it's him talking about not really feeling like he wants to do anything because he's suffering from the whiteout conditions of depression. The snow, like an idea where like it's snowing so much you can't really do anything because of whiteout conditions. Like it's completely barren. You can't really go anywhere. So that's kind of the same thing in his mind, where he's talking about the depression that's so unbearable that he doesn't want to do anything. And it's interesting that those are the lyrics when the music itself is so upbeat and so just so warm, so everything, but that's a really cool contrasting idea that has happened on this album. Most of the time, the lyrics themselves are either tongue-in-cheek or honestly, there's some that I don't really understand where they were coming from. But the music itself never really changes in terms of the feel of just warmness and this 80s energy, this synthesized idea with electric guitar. All of it's really cool. There is one song that to me stands out on the bottom beneath everything else, and that's "We've Been Here Before." And I think it's because they're trying to do this sparse idea with a little bit of music, but also use this a cappella kind of sound with all the voices. Um, and it's not bad. It's just I don't think they gel very well. So to me, it's my least favorite song on the album. But that's honestly it. Like for me, most of these songs right now, like right now, I'm saying Avalanche Alley and Clockwise, and and you know Play Money and Second Sleep are my favorites. But I could listen to this album again and say like Whiteout Conditions is my favorite, or The World of the Theater. Like all these songs are really interesting and just fun to listen to. And that's the power pop part of it. They know what they're doing. They've been through a lot of bands, and just to come together. And this is, I believe, their 7th album. I forgot to say that. Hey guys, so I forgot to say that they also had a lot of previous albums. But that's it. I this is my first one that I've listened to, and I really enjoy it. I would definitely listen to another one. I really like that there are multiple voices. Like one time, like sometimes Neko Case is the one singing the lead. Sometimes it's Newman. Sometimes it's other people, and the way that they gel their harmonies are always great. Nothing really that stands out particularly that are very interesting other than a couple of songs, but the harmonies are great. The music's great. It's always interesting to listen to. And it's the reason why it almost made my top 10. It just missed. I think I put it at 12. And I think it's because of this. On the whole, this album is solid. This is a really amazing album. But there aren't a lot of songs where I'm like, okay, this is a standout one. Because I could say that this one is just a standout or this one is standout, and that's not a bad thing. It's an amazing album. It's one of the most cohesive albums of 2017, where there's not really a drop off in sound. But if I was to say, hey, what is that lead single on this album that you could like hum all the time? I don't think you could find one, and I think that kind of suffers in turn with some of these other ones I put in my top 10, where Villains, it's The Way You Used To, or Damn, it was Humble, or DNA, or if I was doing Paramore, it was Hard Times. All those had a signature song, and I don't think there's a signature song on this album. So if we look, to the future, a couple of years out, you might hear the sound like, oh hey, have you listened to Whiteout Conditions? And you couldn't really place a certain song. I don't know. I haven't listened to her whole discography. I don't know if this sounds any different from any of their other stuff. What I do know is I've really enjoyed the experience, and I happily go on it over and over again. And I would definitely recommend it to a bunch of people who love indie rock or power pop or like a little bit of 80s flair in their music. Even if you have never done that before, even if you've never really experienced it, I would still recommend it because there's a lot of really solid songs on there. Just know that there might not be a song that just sticks in your head the whole entire time and it's like you need to listen to this. I couldn't really recommend a certain song because I think that as I listen to it over and over again, I could say, oh wait, scratch that, this is the song you should listen to, or wait, this is the song you should listen to. Avalanche Alley is one of my favorites. I think it would still probably be one of my favorites even after multiple sounds, because that's the one I kind of remember the most. But also Second Sleep. But other than that, it's kind of like to each their own in terms of who will like what song. But I would recommend it to anybody. So that's my time. Of course, if you liked this, do me a favor, like this video, comment on other albums that I could review, as well as things I can do better. Share this with your friends. Subscribe to my channel. That's the best thing that you can do, so I know that you're interested in what I'm doing and what I'm going to be doing for the future. And honestly, just keep in touch with what I'm doing in the future anyways. So this is coming out today Friday or Saturday, I'm going to put out, I believe, an original song. I've been going through my all my stuff on Google Drive that I have written over the years, and there's just so much good stuff that I haven't put out yet that I want to, and that's going to be a focus for a little bit potentially. So it's either going to be an original song or a cover song, not exactly sure just yet. And then Sunday, I will be doing an album review of another January metal album, but this time it's not going to fare so lightly as Val did. But you're just going to have to find out what it is on Sunday. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Peace.